All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Norfolk Planning Board meeting for Monday, January 27, 2025. This is a out-of-sequence additional meeting, I guess you could call it, for the month. This will be our third meeting this month. We're not planning on having any more this month, in case you're curious. So we are here, gathered here, 7 p.m., Town Hall, room 124. The meeting is also available on Zoom, and we are live streaming it on our YouTube channel. Members of the public are welcome to attend the in-person meeting or by Zoom, and please note that the in-person meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the remote connection. It is also being recorded for those that cannot either attend in person tonight or watch the live stream.
Hold on, Gary Sullivan says we can't hear you.
Working on something.
Okay, hold on, Gary.
You were doing so great too.
I
It's a
know,
really good
I
practice
know.
run.
I was done.
Yeah.
He can't hear you, but it was recorded on our end. Maybe you don't have to redo it.
It was recorded, yeah.
It's still recording.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we did have one of those little technological challenges that I mentioned.
Still muted. I don't know if it matters, but
No,
But it's recorded. The Zoom could not hear us. Gary, can you hear us now?
I think I fixed it.
Okay, great. So
Thank you.
I did do Gary, just so you know, I did the intro. It's recorded. Sorry you couldn't hear it. But let's introduce the board. So we have Chris Montfort.
Hello.
Myself, Chad Peck. Next to me is Eric Diamond, Melissa Mayo, and then we have one planning board member that is remote. Gary Sullivan, if you could say aye or here.
Hi. Here.
Yep, either one worked. Great, you did both. Kudos.
Multi-talent.
And because we do have our one planning board member remote, any votes will be a roll call vote, just to let everyone know. We do have our town planner, Richard McCarthy, and our admin assistant, Betsy Fajol. And coming in right now is our associate member,
Feel free to swap
Gary
out the placards.
Searle.
He's not coming tonight.
So we are here tonight. Mostly, again, this is a special town meeting, our third for the month. The agenda for tonight is a public hearing and then a few other new business items, but the bulk of it is the public hearing at 7 p.m. So let's go ahead and get that opened up. Do we need to read in?
Yeah, read the notice.
Okay, let's do that.
Sorry, 1 second.
Motion to waive the reading?
You waive it, or you want me to read it?
How long?
Well, somebody second it.
Well, someone second. You want to?
Second.
Okay, so waiving of the reading has been motioned and seconded, so let's do a roll call vote. Gary Sullivan,
Aye.
Chris Montfort,
Aye.
Eric Diamond,
Aye.
Melissa Mayo,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So just real quick, the public hearing that we are opening is for the zoning bylaw amendments related to the accessory dwelling units, also known as ADUs, for the May 2025 annual town meeting. So let's get started. Rich, do you want to?
A little context?
Yeah, give it a little
Sure, why
background
not?
context to why we are having this public hearing. And
In the housing bill that was passed last year, as part of the housing bill, there was the zoning amendment provision for accessory dwelling units by right, which amended the State Zoning Act. As part of the enactment of the ADU, the effective date for the ADUs will be February 2nd, so next week coming up. And there's provisions within the statute that towns may enact in terms of how they regulate ADUs. We'll go through those provisions as we go through the bylaw that's proposed. There's also the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. In the original statute, it said that either they could put out guidelines or regulations. The Executive Office decided to put out regulations. They put the draft regulations out a few weeks ago, and as of as of yesterday, or no, excuse me, last week, they put out what they deem as the final regulations. So we do have those compared to the ones you took a look at before. And as we go through the bylaw, we'll probably talk about some of those changes. And just for the public at large, the purpose of having the public hearing today is that this, with hopefully a favorable recommendation by the planning board to go to the May town meeting, anything that comes in between today and town meeting will be subject to the new zoning provisions for ADUs, provided it passes at town meeting. So that's, so there's that, in terms of, I'll call it safeguard, that there will be something to regulate them between, as of the vote of town meeting. So I think that's important to recognize that that's part of what we're doing. The other thing is that we don't have anything in place, so by doing this, some communities have what they call in-law apartments. There's something similar, we have 0 in place. And so the recommendation, I'll recap what we talked about before, is because the regulations that were proposed, we didn't know what the final recommendations. As you get to the end of the hearing, one of the things we'll be talking about is potentially continuing this public hearing to the February meeting. So that way, I know town council's taking a look at the regulations as well as the board, and if we need to make any adjustments to the proposed bylaw, we can. I did also see that the Attorney General's office has offered to look at town's bylaws before they go to town meeting to evaluate them and take a look at them. We may want to send that. We did a similar thing last year with the MBTA zoning. If you recall, the AG's office took a look at them
That was helpful.
ahead of time
Helpful.
to see if we were on point. So that, I did learn of that on Friday, that is being offered too, so I would suggest that we probably take that opportunity and then, as well as evaluate. And we do have town council is joining us this evening via Zoom as questions come up. I know there's a few things I looked at the final regulations that have definitely popped in our discussion about ADUs as we go through them. So that kind of gives you context, and then we can go through each.
Yep. I think we then, let's go through, let's pull up the bylaws or the proposed zoning bylaw, and let's go through it.
Yep.
So the first one's pretty self-explanatory in terms of it defines what ADU is, accessory dwelling unit, and this is really mirroring what's in the statute.
So last sentence where it says short-term rental. Prohibition is on short-term. Do we mean rentals?
Short-term
You
rentals.
see, we're
Yeah,
at the last.
we have
And is that a-
capitalized rental.
Is that a comma or are we doing a period? And is this another section? Should this be section 4? Or comma,
Should be a-
IB, comma?
Well, first I think it should be a lowercase r and then a period. Let me just double check.
Where are you looking, Chris?
First paragraph, really, yeah. 3 lines from the bottom, on the right side of the page. You have short, big word,
Ah, thank you.
no problem.
It's short.
Rich, if I can just jump in quick, short-term rental is a defined term in the regulations, so you might want to capitalize, each letter for short-term rental.
Okay. And should short and term be hyphenated?
Yes, the regulation has capital S short, hyphen term with a lowercase t, and then rental with a capital R.
Okay, so it,
Yeah, so
so it
that's
is,
right.
it is right. We just need to add a period after rental to finish that sentence. Okay.
And it's rental, not rentals, with an S.
Right.
Okay. And then after that, are we sure it's a period, or is it a beginning of the remainder of the definition, which we've noted with parentheses, and in this case, it would be IV?
Take a look.
But not limited to additional size. I would think it's a period, but
That's what it seems like.
Take a look here.
Because these seem to be all qualifications of the definition that we provide above. And then this would be the fourth one of those. So an accessory dwelling unit may be attached to the principal dwelling or detached as a standalone structure that is clearly subordinate to the principal dwelling. So to me, that sounds like a 4, which we're adding,
Yeah.
which means it's a comma instead.
yeah, yep.
Is there a way to share this? It's really hard to, it's just coming in on like a video window and I can't make out any of the words or anything. This document.
It should be in the shared drive.
It is in the shared drive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but nobody else can.
But nobody else could see it either if Gary can't see it, so.
I can,
Yeah, this was,
Just expand that, maybe?
wonder if I can share.
Like,
Because what
You
is
know what I'm
happening is
saying?
they're
It's-
just getting a
it's part-
video of that TV. That's why it's,
Yeah.
right. They're just getting a video image of the
Got
TV, which is, yeah, Betsy's going to share the document in the Zoom.
Give me a sec.
thank you.
Yep. Good, thank you for,
I hate to be a troublemaker.
No.
I just.
that's, Gary, it's perfect. It's great. I'd rather you raise that concern now than at the end of the meeting. I know you would never do that. So then, Chris, if it's a comma, then is the "and" still capitalized?
the A
Should
goes
be A
down.
and should be lower, right?
Right. Then we just got to make sure we put that I and the V in there in parentheses as well to separate it, and then the rest of that paragraph's fine.
Are you moving the "and" before the I?
No, that's after.
Oh, and then you want the, wait,
Yeah, you see how we have 3 here?
yeah, 3 here.
This
and
would
then-
end up being 4,
Right.
comma, 4, so IV.
Well, but then you got to get rid of the "and" in front of the I,
Right. That-
right, yeah.
Damn grammar.
I know, it's,
Examples above have "and," the word "and" in front of 3.
right, we got to
Yeah.
get rid of the
Oh.
and then add it,
And
and then little I, little v in parentheses.
I'm looking at,
Who did the punctuation on this?
ChatGPT. No, I don't know.
Stop.
I'm joking. See, okay, so
let's see, actually.
Oh, that's going up to doing the punctuation.
I just want to look at it first before I,
Colon for lists, semicolon for sentences. For a second.
yeah, I wanna look-
and there's an extra space after dwelling before the period.
Yep. Betsy, did it get shared up to Zoom?
I'm working on it.
Oh,
I
okay.
just,
Betsy's
of
still.
course, I had to just, do the 2-step authentication and
Oh, okay.
on my Google, so.
Very secure here.
Yeah.
Sentence makes sense to you.
Number 7, let's see here.
Yeah, I want to look and see.
So, let me know when we can talk about section B.
Oh, before you get there, I have something.
Okay.
Not yet.
Told you it was gonna be one of those nights, Rich.
That's all right.
I think the intention is less than.
Accessory dwelling may be attached to a principal.
What we should do is share the document live and we can just all log in and just make updates.
We're not allowed,
Prohibition.
unfortunately.
Prohibitions on
Make it so much
short-term
I know.
rental.
And explaining where to put a comma, using words.
Are you looking at it,
Yeah,
Tony?
it
I'm
should-
assuming, right?
Yeah,
I
we can
think
see
the
it.
not more is just less
Right,
than.
it should be,
Huh?
yeah, this is
It should-
backwards English.
We can see it.
You cross out not more,
Yeah.
you say less than.
Yeah.
I actually think, correct me if I'm wrong, it should be a period after rental. And it's
I
a
agree
new,
with that.
and it's a new sentence.
So it's a new sentence and it's not a
It's not a fourth
fourth
condition.
item or fourth condition?
Is accessory supposed to be capitalized?
Only if dwelling unit is.
But dwelling unit's not.
Yeah, so accessory can go down too. Good catch.
No, accessory needs to be because it's a.
Oh, it's a
It's a
definition.
definition, it's accessory, capital A, but then it's,
But should dwelling and
No.
should it be capitalized?
No.
No, not for our, so, just to recap, when we went to E-code, they just capitalized the first word, and then the words thereafter
No, it
is
makes it so hard.
lowercase.
Okay.
So I was just keep it the way it's written,
That's fine.
accessory, with a capital A.
okay. So this,
All right, I'm good till B.
And to this point, this gets added into the definition to be clear, because it wasn't, and if I say something in error, Tony, just step in, but
Yep.
it wasn't overly clear in the statute itself whether accessory dwelling was either attached or detached, so this just,
Yeah, no, I think this
Okay.
calls it out well.
so we're, all right, we're good all the
Period.
way through.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be a period. So now we're good all the way through, to where it starts with A. Any questions on the A purpose? Okay,
Wait, so there is, let me see if that's the section. No, I'm in B. Go ahead.
okay, B, use and dimensional requirements.
So number 4,
How about number 1?
you have one there?
Yeah, what's up with one?
So we're basically saying that use of 31 days or less is prohibited. Are we good with that?
yeah, so we can recap that. I know we talked about this before.
Yeah.
So I know the discussion was like, well, okay, there may not be a problem, why do it ahead of time, essentially? And the reason why the consideration be to do it now is that, for instance, if you don't do it, and then you have a problem, you could have two tiers of where you have ADUs that could be rented and others that are not. Because it's protected in terms of, so somebody, if it's not in there today, somebody comes in and start renting ADUs and you determine that it is an issue for the town, and you don't want to allow that anymore, those remain the way they are. So you can't retroactively correct it, so to speak.
So it would be all net new ADUs would be subject to the new.
Correct, yeah.
And then it'd be really
It's
hard
really-
to enforce.
Afterwards.
Because now we'd have to create some sort of a list of, these were all on this date because they're grandfathered in.
Right, I get that.
Yeah. Well, that's right, we did talk about that at one point, yeah.
Yeah, we've gone back and forth on that one. But I think ultimately, legally, that was really tricky because we can't retroactively say you can't have
No.
something that you previously could have.
Is
No.
that meant to be cumulative over the year, less than 31, or is that windows at a time of less than 31?
It says periods, so a period would have a defined
meaning
start and end. So the defined
31.
start and end of the period can't be less than 31 days.
Good.
What if they're just renting it for like November?
Well, that's less than 31, so.
Right, so I can't rent it for
No.
November.
But you could rent it for.
Or what about February?
You could rent it for, well, no, February's 30,
No,
February's 28,
28.
November's 30. So, but you could rent it for 2 months.
You could rent it for 2 months.
Right. But if I only needed a spot for a month and this was available and it happened to be February.
So you rent it for a month and a day.
Yeah.
I see your game.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it
Well,
just,
these are the, that is the detailed nuance.
and I'm also-
Challenges with zoning.
I'm thinking forward to the town and knowing that we have the soccer thing coming to town and that people are going to want to be able to rent their households and they're going to want to put ADUs up and they're going to want to have some rental income for that. And like, we're basically saying, no, not here, not in our town.
For the ADU.
Right.
Yeah.
And is it our job to say that?
The state's giving you the option to be able to do that. You can choose to or not to. Like,
So I guess I'm asking, do we choose to?
I would.
You want to say no?
I would leave it as written.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your opinion? Leave it, strike it?
No, I'm fine with what's here. I would put it in to start with solely for the reason that Rich mentioned. But I don't think you want that to occur. I'm trying to limit anything that would want corporations to invest in creating ADUs and buying up houses. There's a purpose to this, which was to help elderly people and disadvantaged people from moving out of their houses. That's how I would use my guidance they don't need to rent stuff out for 2 days. If it did enable them somewhere down the line, if the state came back to us and said, we see this restriction as harming the people that it was intended to support, that might change my mind. But right now, I think this opens up a door to organizations, corporations. It's different use than what it's intended to do.
Right.
So
Well
but
said.
the short answer was yes, I
Well said.
agree.
Yeah, no, well said. Okay.
well, and also, I will say, does afford some protection to the residents who live potentially next to somebody who might have an ADU. And we have had incidents where people were renting out their homes and then became significant nuisances to the neighborhood through the Airbnb, and really was no ability to enforce that.
This does not restrict them from living in the ADU and renting their house.
Right.
We have
No, right.
no control over
Right,
that.
right.
So
Right.
they can still rent for 2 days if
Yeah.
that's a benefit to them.
Right.
Melissa, any opinion?
I think we should proceed with caution, and what Rich described and what Tony mentioned, but not being able to go back retroactively and having to keep track of the grandfathered list, I think that just sounds really messy. But if it does come up from residents, I mean, the bylaws are a working document, as we know, because we're constantly working on them. But if it does come up from a lot of residents who would really like that, we could certainly revisit it.
Eric, Gary, anything to add?
And this is our public hearing. We entertain everybody's feedback. Right now is the time to bring up your opinions and
Yep.
convince us one way or the other. But we're now, I think we stick
Yeah,
with
so
this.
that's a good point.
We welcome the feedback.
Do you,
Yeah.
in terms of the discussion, do you want to go through the whole bylaw, or do you want to maybe pause, open it up, and come back?
I think it would be, we allow open, raise your hand if you have a question, throughout, because I don't want to have to go through it twice. There's a lot to go through.
Right.
So let's not go through it twice. So if anybody in the room or on Zoom has any questions, just, raise your hand. We'll try to keep tabs on that. And we do have, it's hard to monitor us at least up here, because we're seeing the shared document, but Gary Sullivan is on Zoom, and so he'll see the hands raised, and he could
Help out.
Mr. Diamond has his hand raised.
Okay. Yep.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Peter Diamond over at Seapunk Street. And, on the definitions, when I looked in the zoning E code and the definitions online, they're all in caps. I think you were discussing earlier that only the A would be in capital letter. So
Yeah.
that's just a comment.
I appreciate that. I think when we send this to E-code, they'll format it appropriately anyway.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
in
Did
the
you hear
first
that, Peter?
sentence Yeah.
Okay.
In the first sentence in B1, accessory dwelling unit shall not be used as a short-term rental unit as defined in GL. Should that be M period, G period, L period? MGL.
Yeah, no,
General law.
Maybe Tony can weigh in
it
on that.
probably is.
It doesn't matter. I mean, it's you're referencing the general laws in the state. It's kind of a preference thing. Depending on the venue, it might make sense to add MGL or mass general laws, or just leave it as GL. I think for the purpose of the bylaw, citing the statute like that is fine, but if the board prefers to add an M, then that's also fine too.
I would.
It doesn't really.
Yeah, let's add the M.
That's all, thank you.
Yep, thank you, Peter. Okay. Anyone else? I mean, so we're still on B.
So my last question there is just from an enforcement perspective, like how are we doing that?
On the, for the short-term rental?
Yeah.
If we go down, let's see.
So the covenant shall run with the land and be enforceable by the town through injunctive relief with the property owner required to pay. I mean, but it doesn't say who's.
Right, it doesn't have
Who's the-
an AHJ. Authority having
I'll fall
jurisdiction.
back to,
Unfortunately, the building commissioner,
It'd be Bob.
who's the zoning enforcement
Should probably
officer,
call that out somehow.
I
I think already,
think it defaults to that, even if it's not called out.
If that's the way, then that's fine.
yeah.
I think you'd only specify it if you wanted
somebody
it
else.
not to default.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so that's B1. So if we start now
Only
with,
9 more to go.
yeah, B2. Betsy, you got that Mass General Law change?
Yep.
Okay. All right, B2, anything?
So 2 is basically saying you can't condo it.
Right.
Right.
correct.
Then 3,
And that appears to be consistent with the proposed regulations, correct, Tony? That's kind of the read on that? That they have to be accessory to the principal dwelling unit?
Yeah. Yeah.
There was concern about that originally, but that,
okay. And then number 3, there's 2 periods at the
Yeah,
end of this.
I see that.
Yep, okay. 4,
Just, so there was a training, just to clarify, number 3 there, for anybody that, if we didn't go over this in a previous meeting, the training that Rich and I were on, that went through kind of more in detail what all of this meant and, you know, all of the guidelines, or sorry, regulations, and they talked through it all, and they mentioned that if somebody already has an ADU or an in-law apartment today, when this goes into effect, they could have another one. So it's 1, but if you already had one before that, technically you would have 2. But just so you guys know, if anybody asks you for clarification, that kind of struck me as, I was
the
kind of
second
taken
one is
aback
by
a little
right
bit.
also?
If you already have one, then yeah, technically.
you get another one by right. Okay.
Oh, that was a little
Yes, the
strange.
regulations define the pre-existing ADUs as a protected ADU, I believe.
Okay. All right, thank you, Tony.
And if you apply for an in-law apartment after this goes into an effect, you can still build an in-law apartment, then you can still apply for an ADU?
I don't believe so. And Tony,
Okay.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what I heard on that training was that if you, anytime after this goes into effect, an in-law apartment is now the same thing as an ADU. It's just attached or detached. So I think if you apply for it after this, then that is your one. Is that right, Tony?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's only one of anything else. Okay.
Okay. Number 4, special.
Or I have a comment. It's fine, I think, the way it's written there, based on what we discussed previously, but I did notice that it says here that we're allowing a maximum of 2 accessory dwelling units, which we discussed previously, but then on the schedule of use regulations, it says 2 or more. So I think we just need to make those consistent when we get down to the bottom.
So 4 is basically talking about that situation where they already have one. And this is requiring that they have an additional 10,000 square feet of land to support the secondary one.
This one's actually different.
No, it's if you're gonna, you have to at least allow, so let's pretend there's a lot that has no accessory dwelling unit or in-law apartment. You have to allow 1 by right, and then at least 1 additional ADU by special permit.
Got it. So that's for everybody. So if I wanted to put one on my property now, I could. And then if I wanted to put a second one, I could get a special permit to do so, as long as I had the 10,000 square feet of land.
But yeah, if you had the extra 10,000 square feet, you could do it, yeah.
Okay.
So it does already a point in the use table though. Should only be limited to 2 then?
To make it match, yeah.
To match?
There's an additional.
Let's wait till we get down to it.
All right. So we'll hold that? Okay.
Do we have to call out number 5 since we're calling it out in the definition, or are we just doing that for a point of clarity?
So I did go back and check what Peter was talking about. So in the general code, it does have capital letters in each of the words in the definition. But then when you find it in the body of the zoning bylaws, the capitalization goes away.
I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about the fact that we called this out already in the definition. Do we need to repeat
5
the
is
same
repetitive
sentence
in the
again?
definition.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, I would leave that in.
You would leave it in?
The definition is one thing, but then a separate statement, as a regulation is another, so I
Okay.
think number 5.
Okay, any questions on 6? I think that looks standard.
I do have
No,
a question about 6.
Okay.
So Tony, I don't know if you saw my question, but,
Yeah, I did. I saw it right before I signed on, so I'm prepared.
okay. So my question to Tony was looking at the proposed regulations. It talks about consistency in terms of dimensional requirements associated with accessory or structures,
Accessory buildings, yeah.
accessory buildings.
Right.
Our accessory buildings has a special permit provision to be able to encroach upon setbacks,
Right. It does.
as well as being in the front yard.
Right.
But not for houses though, right? And this is technically a dwelling.
Yeah, so I'll let,
Well, I think, so the issue is, in the most recent version of the regulations, under where they discuss dimensional standards, they, and I'm just going to summarize it, I don't want to read the whole thing, but it basically says that the dimensional standards concerning setbacks, lot coverage, open space, bulk and height, number of stories, that are more restrictive than what is required for the principal dwelling or a single-family residential dwelling, and then they added or accessory structure in the zoning district in which the ADU is located.
Oh.
So when we drafted this, the regulations seem to allow you just to apply the regular dimensional requirements to the ADU, which would be the same as to the primary dwelling, but now it looks like the regulations are gonna make you apply the least stringent dimensional standard, whatever it is, and then the regulations say that, whichever results in a more permissive regulation. So because they've added accessory structure and they're telling you to, basically allow ADUs to be built on your accessory structure setback bylaw and not in the normal, principal dwelling setbacks in the zoning district.
Gotcha.
That's a potential, that's a
worms.
significant can of worms, because ours, again,
So
accessory structures can be equal to the height.
I don't
The
see a
building?
way to, I don't see where we really have any control over that unless we change the setbacks on all of our accessory buildings,
Or duplicate that table in here.
which we just did that at the last town meeting. We're not going to be able to change that. I mean, it'd be a really high bar to be able to change all those.
And then we'd have to go around and identify all the,
What's that? You mean
Accessory
what, our existing bylaw for accessory
Our
structures?
existing bylaw for accessory buildings. We did that at the last town meeting. I feel like we've done it at several over the last couple of years.
We have, yeah, no, I understand.
But I don't know if we'd be able to make those changes, successfully make those changes. So I'm not sure how to avoid this. I think it is what it is.
right, so like on a.
And also, I think the important part about it is this new dimensional definition in the regulations, it falls under the section that talks about, what is per se an unreasonable regulation. So, number 6 here that we're looking at the screen would likely be considered an unreasonable regulation because you're not allowing the accessory structure setbacks.
So if we play this out, like on
The choice, I guess the choice is to, add that in here, or like, you were just discussing, try to change the accessory structure setbacks again. Policy decision for the town, but number 6 as written conflicts with the final regulations.
So what would we need to do to modify? We would need to say accessory comply with dimensional setbacks, blah, 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 zoning. I mean, what language would we need to add to 6 to comply, to include that accessory building and most permissive use?
Yeah. So you could add, the accessory dwelling unit shall comply with the dimensional setbacks.
So before he finishes, this is definitely why we're gonna highly advise to continue this.
Highly advised to continue, and
What you
also,
would do, you would add after where it says dimensional setbacks in the first sentence,
yeah,
as applied to accessory structures, and, cite the zoning bylaw, and then slightly modify the rest of the sentence to show that the lot size, lot coverage, open space, and bulk
Okay.
and height requirement, remain with the, whatever the zoning district is.
There's some pretty broad power in that accessory structure.
Yeah, I'm thinking it through, like, properties like where Chad is, they've got 150 feet to the front door, practically, right? You only need 50 feet off of the street in order to put your accessory building. So you theoretically could put a mini version of your house in front of your house.
you could. Yeah, I don't know if it's 150. Yeah, it's quite a. Yeah, we're set back a little far.
Well,
Yeah.
most of the houses in that area.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cute, but still weird.
Well, yeah, it would really change the curb appeal.
We change the character of the neighborhood.
That's a good way to put it.
100%,
Change the
yeah.
character of the neighborhood. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thinking about that, is there a way that we can say that the building of these accessory units can't significantly change the character of the neighborhood, and that becomes our catch-all?
We talked about that, but then it would be more restrictive than what we say now, and we can't be more restrictive.
We don't
Can't
have
be more-
language already in there around.
I don't think you'd,
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tony.
I don't think you'd use the character of the neighborhood language, because that's usually something that, you know, a board has to determine, you know, and at least one of these things are by right. You know, I think we might need to think about it a little more, but
Yeah, let's put a pin in 6.
it might be worth taking a shot at just saying, like, you can't have an ADU in your front yard, and see what the AG says about it, because I think that's pretty reasonable.
Right, and we kind of come to saying
Our own
that,
regulation.
we say that later on in 8. Well, as far as the required front, side, or rear required yard setback. So we're saying it can't be in the setbacks, but in the structure, we say it can be in the setbacks if you have a special permit. And so 8's in conflict as well.
Yes. 8's in conflict as
So
well.
6 and 8 we come back to. 7, it's the parking requirement. Where are we with that?
7 is the one that I had a question on. So we say here that we are going to require 1 private off-street parking space. In the document that's saved here, are these the guidelines that you saved on the share drive? The document 760 CMR 7100, that one?
Yep.
That one there. In there, it says on or off-street. So are we able to make ours specifically off-street, even though it says on or off in the regulations?
Well, there's times throughout the year that we don't allow on-street parking.
At all?
Yeah.
Right.
Again, this is that's a good one. Excellent question.
Yeah. And it's not more restrictive. It's consistent with what we do in the town already. There's very limited places where we allow on-street parking, period.
I know. This is where this is not the, well, anyway, sorry. I'll refrain my editorializing.
Yep, okay. And then Eric's got something on it.
The second to last sentence, no additional parking space shall be required for an accessory dwelling located not more than half a mile from commuter rail station. I think the intent of that is to say, shall be required for an accessory dwelling unit less than half a mile.
It's just like not more than.
Yeah, just the way they're worded, phrased.
Really, it's like you got to really think about that. Might be easier, just say less than a half mile. So no additional parking is required if you're less than a half mile from the commuter rail.
I think this language came right from the state, right? I'm pretty sure I've seen this before.
I mean, not more than sounds like a,
Yeah, it's
I don't know,
a mouthful.
very legal. But Tony, what's your take on that?
Not more than,
Half, not more than
I
0.5.
mean, you can change it to make it read easier, so
Okay.
long as you're saying the same thing. I mean,
Okay.
you don't have to like copy and paste exactly how the regulation reads into your bylaw. So long as it does the same thing, that's fine.
Okay, I would feel better if it was less than.
Yeah, simpler.
Yeah.
And is that, the sentence before says a waiver of this may be granted by planning board. So now it's saying no additional spot shall be required if you're within that radius, but you don't need that waiver anymore?
The waiver would be if you were outside of the half mile, but you still didn't want parking.
So could that sentence, this second to last sentence say no waiver required for this additional piece? Or is that implied?
I think it's implied, because you're just requesting a waiver for no
Outside
parking.
of,
Right, and then we're also saying, oh, by the way, parking is not
Requirement.
required if it's less than a half mile. Okay, so we good with 7? So then 8,
Redraft, I mean,
so,
You know, in 7, just one more thing.
okay, what else? Yep,
At the beginning of the second sentence, it says accessory dwelling. I would just put unit after dwelling before the period.
okay.
in 7, you said, right?
Yep, in 7, end of the first sentence needs to have unit.
That probably goes for the other one as well, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna rewrite it anyway, right?
Well, I think you just, yeah, you can easily do a,
No additional parking, because
Yeah,
it's
right.
missing in the other one.
it's missing in the one too.
Yeah, missing.
I think you just do a search for the word dwelling and make sure
Units
it's
after.
after it and accessories before it and,
Yeah.
okay. All right, we good with 7? Is anyone, Gary Sullivan, any hands raised in the,
I don't see any.
okay.
No, there are no hands raised currently.
Yep, just speak up if you see one, because Betsy's editing and it's hard to keep track of that, so just,
So the last line where it says the applicant, in number 7, the applicant shall provide proof of this requirement or proof that it's met. What are we showing? Just that is the applicant supposed to give us a map that shows how far away they are from the train? What would we expect
Yeah.
them to give us?
yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That would suffice, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, units here, here's your half-mile radius bubble from the train station, it's within that bubble.
Now, this is how the crow flies, too. This half mile.
Yeah, no, I get it, yeah, it's
Which is a lot further.
drop a pin, half-mile radius,
It's a big radius.
yeah.
All right. Or, yeah.
Number 8, needs to be talked about, rewritten, right?
Yes.
Do we want to talk about it now, or you need to,
I think we need to noodle on it. a little
yeah,
bit.
think about it a minute and come
Yeah.
back? Okay, all right. 9,
I don't know if we're coming back tonight. FYI.
no, I know, I
Okay,
was
all right.
thinking next meeting.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, no, I get it. And then 9,
Oh, this is tricky. So,
This goes back to the,
yeah, the
Structures.
accessory building versus
Yeah.
dwelling. They really threw a wrench in the gears. We had this all figured out.
Yeah.
so this is another one we need to come back to.
I think
Same with 10.
I think 9's got to be,
10 will be the same.
yep, and 10, because, right, corner lots, that's an issue in our town, because it really has 2 front yards.
Well, I think for 9, it actually complies because the maximum building height in a residential district will be higher than the maximum building height for an accessory structure. So number 9 is more permissive.
Okay.
It's way more
Although,
permissive.
what if somebody wanted to put, I'm thinking of the edge case, what if somebody had a huge yard and they just wanted to go put a building directly in the middle of it and they had 50 feet on the side? Couldn't you technically build it 50 feet tall, which is beyond our bylaws now?
No, you can only go to the max of the structure that's already on the property.
No,
No, it doesn't, it's not written
No.
that way.
35 feet.
Oh, so it would be 35-foot max.
I don't know, but do we have that, does that requirement also cover the accessory building, like it would a house?
I think it does now, because accessory building, I think it does. Let me just double check. I think that's how we redrafted it.
I just want to say I love the fact that we're looking for all the loopholes. I really do.
And Melissa's been looking for loopholes for weeks, if not months on this.
And then the
Appreciate
state,
that.
and then the state comes out with new regulations and everything I thought I knew. Now I have to find new loopholes.
Yeah, I think well,
I'm looking at it, right, yeah.
yeah,
Says
jumping forward to 10, I think 10 is probably.
10 is a
fine.
problem.
Why is 10 a problem? Because it says it
It's
must
too-
comply with both front yard setbacks.
This- Again, the accessory structure is less than 50 feet.
Right. Or it's right at 50 feet.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right, because the accessory building then is more, our bylaw for accessory building is more permissive,
Right.
so we can't say that anymore.
Right.
Right. So 10 is also an issue, but 9,
9's fine.
I think 9's okay.
Although there may be odd cases where we have
Probably
an
safe.
accessory building that's taller than the principal structure.
Yep. Okay. All right, so we need to, rewrite 8 and 10. All right. C.
6, 8, and 10.
Yep, 6, 8, and 10. C.
So Tony's probably right, Tony, as you said. So for accessory structure, it's equal to the height, right? In the, so that,
The setback?
no, the height. Right, hold on, let me see. Oh, what did it just do? Oh. All right, keep going.
Okay, so
I'll come back to it.
C1, so it's a vegetated buffer that proposed less than 25 feet from an existing single family. So, yeah, so if you're less than 25 feet away, I'm assuming that means whether it's on your lot or your neighbor's lot, you got to do a buffer.
What about, so it's limited to single-family dwelling, but what about existing ADUs or, Lot 1 already has theirs up and Lot 2 comes in and
But
Let's put another one back to back
why
to
would
it.
you need to provide a buffer to just an accessory building?
an accessory dwelling.
And how are we defining vegetative buffer? Is it okay if I just put clover in between the two properties?
I think it was defined somewhere,
It is, I think
actually.
it is. Right, so what, so say.
I get my accessory dwelling unit up a year before you come want to put yours up. I got mine on the line. Now, you
Right,
want
so
to put
this-
yours back to mine, and now there's not 25 feet.
But-
I only had to do it if it was the existing single-family dwelling.
I know, so when you build that second one, now there's an existing,
So then it's
Oh,
on
you
the
need to
neighbors.
say ADU,
Or
you wanted
dwelling,
to say-
or, yeah,
and,
or accessory dwelling unit.
and/or, so and/or accessory dwelling unit, I see what you're saying.
So that at least you're spacing the two
Yeah.
units at least 25 feet apart, period.
Yeah.
No, you're not spacing the units, you're just providing a vegetative buffer if they're less than 25 feet. It's not spacing, it's just
Buffer.
a buffer needs to be provided, so screening, if you're less than 25 feet from from a existing single-family dwelling.
Right, but then he's proposing the language or accessory dwelling unit.
Right.
So if there was two accessory dwelling units and they both wanted to be close to each other,
Right.
if it's less than 25 feet, then you need to provide that.
A buffer, right.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
So the accessory structure is equal to the height off the setback?
The accessory structure is equal to the height off the setback, yep. But
Which
can't-
is more, no, it's more lenient, so.
But not to exceed.
But not to exceed the height of the primary residence,
By
right, or
2.5
something like that?
times or something like that? What was the rest of the language?
Well, I think we said we couldn't say that it
couldn't,
couldn't
yeah.
surpass, that it can't be taller than the primary residence, but we could say that it has to meet the height requirements, right? Potentially for the primary or
For
principal
a principal,
dwelling?
yeah, which is 35 feet.
Right.
But now when you throw in the accessory structure, that's where those setbacks are 50 feet from the front yard and then equal to the height for the side and rear. And then that special permit provision is where somebody can reduce those.
Okay.
Which would kind of conflict now with this screening piece, wouldn't it?
A little bit. Did we solve this by just naming accessory structures something else, like alternative structures?
Pretty standard, though,
yeah.
standard term.
Yeah, I wouldn't,
You can't do that.
I wouldn't do that.
Okay.
like
Accessories.
I'm trying to think outside of the box here, simplify this.
No, I know. I just got alarm bells that went off in my head. You want to leave accessory structures.
Arose by any other name.
So I think we got to play this through a little bit to come back with a,
Okay. Well, Eric is proposing on C1 to add at the end of the sentence, it says from an existing single-family dwelling, and you're proposing what? And accessory dwelling unit.
Or existing accessory dwelling unit.
Or existing accessory dwelling unit. So he's like proposing a buffer, because they're both living
Once one's there, you
dwellings.
can't.
They're both dwellings.
You can't piggyback on it.
So he's like, yeah, we should buffer the primary
Accessory.
residence and the ADU.
Buffer
Through the
both of
chair,
them?
Yeah, Peter, go ahead.
Why are we looking for a vegetative buffer between the two structures? I'm just curious where that came from.
So I think, I don't know where it came from, but my understanding with the intent would be is, so say you had an ADU on your property that then was, I don't know, wherever it was on your property was close to your setback, and it was, and then you had some other, I can't think of a situation where you'd have this, but
So like my house is very close to the left side of my property line.
Right.
Right? And so my neighbor's house might also be very close to that line.
Right.
And so if I wanted to put an accessory dwelling unit just right behind mine, I think it's for a privacy thing.
it's definitely a privacy thing.
Yeah.
If I'm that area and there's 25 feet between my house and my neighbor's house that's just set back a little bit behind mine, then it provides privacy to screen the house.
Right. It's screening your neighbors.
Right.
Because
So the buffer is intended for the neighbor, but if I would have put an accessory dwelling unit less than 25 feet from my single-family house, I have to put a row of trees in?
well, that's
That's the way I-
that's a good point, and that's what I was just started thinking about as well. Is like if we add ADU in this, then yeah, you may have to screen it from yourself.
well, you could, yeah. So you'd have to clarify it to the budding.
Do we need to add it?
I don't know.
I don't really care for the language. I think that's something, I don't know that it's something that we need to require from a design perspective. I think if you feel infringed upon from a privacy perspective, you can take it upon yourself and put a fence up, or you can put in your own privacy hedges if you so choose.
But-
I don't think it needs to be a requirement. And I think that can be something that can be owned by either the neighbor who's feeling like, oh my God, I can't believe they just put that building there. All right, put up some arborvitae's. Problem
Yeah.
gone. Or on the person who just put it in and they decide, oh my God, they can see me when I'm coming out of the shower. I'm going to put up some trees.
Yeah.
I
So you're
think it's,
proposing to strike it.
I
Strike
say
it.
we strike it, yes.
I'm fine with that.
I think strike it is appropriate.
Okay, strike C1.
Because it's also an undue cost that's not necessarily required.
C2.
The anti of that is it's required in B1, isn't it?
For one?
In B1, isn't there a requirement to have a vegetative buffer between?
In the B1
Residential,
zoning district,
yeah.
you mean?
Well, there's a buffer for, well, commercial.
But you're not,
Right.
you're not going to be able to do an ADU in B1.
Right, but I'm just saying, well, that similar, we have that.
But that's
A
for the
commercial
B1,
next to
that's
a-
for the B1 abutting to a residential.
Residential,
Yeah,
Right.
that way you're not
Right.
looking into like a commercial parking lot that has like a commercial dumpster or something in it.
Yeah.
2, I'm fine with. I don't know that we necessarily need to get more detailed there.
Need to add unit after accessory dwelling.
Yep.
It's
Fair.
It's there
Oh,
already.
it's in the first sentence. She means
Very-
the construction of a detached accessory dwelling, comma, so unit.
Okay.
Happy you're back.
3.
So this one's kind of interesting. Tony,
What? Yeah.
about the,
Accessory dwelling unit connected to town water or share a well with the principal dwelling.
Can it have a separate well?
That's cost prohibitive.
But it can have it, can it?
Yeah.
so my question, Tony, is about the whole limitation on utilities in this.
Yeah.
It may not require a separate utility connection such as a water.
I mean, how else are they going to get water? Do we need to spell this out for them? They can figure it out on their own.
Well, I know, but,
Those are the only 2 options. We're not supporting, people bringing in potable water and holding it in jugs.
they could, no, I'm not doing that. I'm just
I think it was more to make sure that the construction was complete, right? Because of the definition of what an accessory dwelling unit is.
But we call it out over here, we're calling out the Title V. Title V requires water. And in this other area, we call it, well, in the definition, and maybe we need it because of that, it's only called out in the definition, but
Yeah, I mean, maybe
we
this
require
one's fine.
cooking and sanitary facilities. In order for something to be signed off on, you need running water.
Right, that's
Cooking
true.
and sanitary facilities.
It could be redundant. Yeah, I think Bob just wanted to make sure that he could actually see in the plans that it's connected, right? So do we need to mention that here?
I don't think we need to, it's in the plans.
If it's in the plans, we don't need to call it out here. That's a building inspection requirement.
I mean, it does need to have potable water some way, or well, or can you have, I don't know, Board of Health, 2 wells on one,
Yeah, I think you can.
2 separate
Yeah,
wells?
I think so.
So if you could have 2 separate wells on the property, then they don't necessarily have to share the same well.
It's just a radius thing.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But
But the
the
requirement would be to connect to town water. I mean, that's so if the site, so I guess the question I have is, if the site is on town water, they would not have an existing well, right? The principal dwelling would not have an existing well, so they have to do town water.
Not necessarily.
They could,
I mean,
though.
you're on town water and you have a well in your neighborhood.
But my well is just irrigation only.
Right,
it doesn't
but you
have
could
to
have
be.
both.
You can always hook up your well to provide water to this.
I could.
Yeah.
So, yeah, right. So in that situation, if you're on town water and you have a well for an irrigation, but it's not your drinking, by this statement, I could hook them into that well for their drinking water.
Right.
But would there be anything in our, maybe in a site plan or some other, because the requirement is all new construction in town has to be on city water. And you could be on a well by special.
No, it's not.
No, it's
that's
not?
that's a loan requirement. Depending on the type of loan that you receive,
Okay, I'm sorry then.
they might
okay,
require it
I
unless it's-
misunderstood. All
yeah.
right. Okay.
Not for single, I mean,
Okay.
for commercial.
Nope.
loans.
All right.
commercial, yeah.
Okay. That's what it is then, just the
Get
commercial.
rid of the specifics, we list town water or well, but if you want, you could change it, an accessory dwelling unit shall be connected to I don't
On
know.
the water source?
Not a water source to provide water to the accessory dwelling unit, something like that. And then just let them figure it out and satisfy the building department when they apply for a permit.
Okay.
Just remove share.
So you said accessory dwelling unit shall be connected to,
Town water or
Or a well.
well, period.
okay, you just say town water or a well.
Yep.
We can't require separate metering.
No, you cannot.
No.
Okay.
The new version of the regulations say you cannot require separate utilities for water, sewer, electricity.
But if you want to, you can.
Yeah, you can.
No.
Oh, you can't at
They
all?
say you cannot.
At all?
Wow.
If I want to, I can't?
You want to make your
Oh, if
accounting
you own
clean.
property, I suppose you can, but
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can't require.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
So like if I'm
Yeah.
putting one on my property and
You
I decide to put a
voluntarily can,
separate
yeah.
electric meter
Yeah.
or a separate water meter onto it, I am allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right, C4, any new impervious surfaces shall be recharged into ground.
Fine.
That's what I was thinking.
That's a good one. We got one.
All right. 5, accessory
Not fine.
dwelling unit shall use existing driveway to access the unit, and there shall be no additional curb cuts allowed, so to provide access to the accessory dwelling unit. So no additional curb cuts allowed.
Why not?
I don't know, I mean, do you want to have, you could start having a whole bunch of curb cuts then.
Up to 2.
Well, I know, and then if the whole neighborhood has an ADU, now you got a lot of driveways.
I wonder if this should be looked at on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, you could have a huge property, a lot of frontage, and
Right.
it's over there, that's accessory dwelling.
I mean,
and
you know
not
my
coming in through
property.
mine.
You know my property.
Get over there.
The majority of my property is all lopsided on one side. If I wanted to put an ADU on the other side, like, I'd rather have a curb cut than wind through my driveway through the woods.
Through the yard to get there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good
I'm
point.
traversing the entirety of my yard in order to get to a.
So
That's where the garage is, of the existing driveway. That's
Right.
not where you want them to be.
Right.
So could we restrict that by special permit then?
Please.
For the
No.
by right, we can't.
Okay.
For the
No
additional, yes.
special permit. Yeah, for the additional, you
Right.
can.
The first
Okay,
one has to
so-
be by right.
So Tony, maybe it's, is a waiver kind of similar to the parking? Would that potentially be appropriate? So it's case by case?
I see what you're saying, yep.
Well,
What's that?
who's granting the waiver?
Planning board.
Planning board.
As part of the site plan review?
Yeah, the planning board through site plan review.
I thought I remembered last meeting that we didn't want to do site plan review.
What? No, we are.
No, we should.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, then fine, yeah. I might be getting a meeting mixed up.
No worries.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah, that's another, yeah.
I feel like even Rich and Tony and I, we've gone back and forth on that so many times. It's hard to keep it straight.
No, I totally get it. No.
So then we just need to revise the language to allow
So-
a waiver. Planning board could grant a waiver for an additional curb cut.
we'll have to think about what standard applies to that waiver. We'll have to come up with a benchmark that
Right,
someone would have.
Okay.
That's right. Just, and, right, just like we did with the parking, half a mile. So there's your requirement. But,
I presume we're gonna be having to tweak 6.
so maybe it has something to do with like,
Frontage.
yeah, I was gonna say, your frontage.
I mean, if you're on an estate lot, it makes a lot of sense,
line
but
of
what if
sight.
your estate lot also connects to 2 other streets, right? You don't
Yeah, definitely
necessarily
line of
want to
sight.
have your driveway going all the way through to that other street, just so that you can meander around that curb so that
Right.
they can enter right there. And we have a lot of instances like that.
It would be good to have line of sight in here if we could.
Yeah. All right, 6.
Just real quick before we get to 6,
Okay.
as we have like these design guides for setbacks and things like that, are we going to provide any of those visuals as well somewhere in the bylaws?
Hadn't necessarily thought of it or planned on it, I suppose.
Okay.
but-
We could, though, we could create, not necessarily in the bylaws.
And it doesn't have to be for this round, like, once this
Yeah.
is approved, then we're good, like, I think it would
Trying
be
to get
good for
over
us.
the hurdle at this point.
Right, like, once we get over the hurdle and we get something in, like, I really think visuals are gonna help support this in the future.
For people as they come forward. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's clearly called out in this page.
Yeah.
You know, your situations like this, it's a corner lot, so in
Yeah.
these corner lot situations, this is the locations where we typically would expect to see these.
That makes sense.
Yep.
All right, so where are the driveways
So
located?
6, yeah.
6.
Lot line at least 4 feet of the driveway side yard measured from the side lot. Huh?
Thing Chad through,
Yeah.
Chair, Pete Diamond.
Yeah, go ahead,
The,
Peter.
Additional driveways, you might want to check with the DPW on the maximum allowed road cuts per lot or per address. I thought they had a restriction to 1, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point. We can do that. We'll check with the DPW on that.
I know they have to get a, yeah, we can check with them. I know they have to get a permit, curb cut permit, so they definitely.
Can someone explain number 6, please?
Yeah, I was kind of confused on that too. So lot line, if the driveway is within 15 feet of the lot line, I get that. But what I don't understand is the at least 4 feet of driveway side yard. What is measured from the side lot line?
Oh, what's the
So-
intent? First
So you
off?
don't plow your
4
snow into the other guy's land, maybe?
So so you got your lot line, and that 4 feet from the lot line is that driveway side yard. Shall be a buffer zone landscaped with non-impervious.
Uninvasive plants.
I'm sorry, non-invasive plantings. I was thinking of something, yeah.
So is the question, do we need to say driveway side yard? Can't we just say if it's
It
located?
says driveway, yeah. I'm trying to understand, what's the purpose of this, though? Like, what are we asking for and why?
There's great driveway separation, so there's a buffer between them.
Yeah, there's actually, we had an instance in my neighborhood where like somebody actually extended their driveway and it goes up almost into the other person's yard now, and they were not required to do a buffer, and it looks awful. And the neighbors absolutely hate it. So I feel like if they're going to encroach, we should probably have some buffer there that doesn't then put it on the homeowner who lives next door.
So essentially, we don't have guidelines with regards to how far a driveway can extend into the side yard setbacks.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. So is this the best place for us to address this?
Well, I think it's just.
I guess the larger question is, Tony, is that a reach, this requirement?
Because it only exists here. Yeah, I think it cuts both ways. I think it could maybe be a reasonable regulation as part of your site plan review. But if you're not requiring, buffer driveway side yard areas as part of your regular single-family zoning, then you might not be able to apply it to ADUs. So-
Right, so we need to address this in our larger bylaw regulations as opposed to right here.
Well, you'd have to do them both. But what Tony's saying is it doesn't exist in our regulations now, so it'd be
So as is, this is more restrictive.
this.
Yeah, this is more restrictive than the
restrictive,
bylaw
so
itself.
the AG may push back on it. They're like, wait a second, you just made something more restrictive.
Right.
Right, so if
Yeah.
you skip it now and you add it down the line, it would still apply to all this.
Right.
We could do it for both. I mean, if you're encroaching on your neighbor's yard and you're a few feet away,
Yeah, I think to Chris's point, we'd have to add that into the.
To the other bylaw.
To the bylaw, and then
We'd have-
this would match up.
Right,
Right.
right.
And like, are we confident that 4 feet is sufficient from the side yard setback?
You can
For
get
the
some pretty
buffer?
good plantings in 4
Yeah.
feet. You can get some screens. I'm good with 4 foot.
Because it's 4 foot on your side, and then if your neighbor decided to do the same, it's 4 foot on
Foot
their
there,
side,
so it's
so it's
8
8
foot.
feet total
Yeah, that's-
technically.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, are we entertaining to do this for this round, and we're going to do that revision somewhere else.
So if we're keeping this, we have to do the
Right.
other.
Yeah.
So do we need another public hearing for that as well?
We will, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Do we have the time for that?
Yeah, yeah, we do.
We do.
Yep.
I'm for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have to.
Yeah. I guess the thing is, we probably don't need the 15 feet in here, I guess, right? If we just said there's a 4 foot.
Right, no, you don't need the 15
no.
feet.
Get rid of that, or no?
Oh, no, yeah,
No,
because
you
that's
need the
within the
15
bounds.
feet.
You need the 15 feet because it says if you're within 15 feet of your side yard and you're putting in your driveway, at least 4 feet, if it falls 4 feet, you need at least a 4-foot buffer from the side. So if you're like at 10 feet, you need a 4-foot buffer. But if you're at 11, then you're fine. Is my thinking, right?
Oh,
Still have
including
that
the 4?
4-foot buffer, but
No. Once you're in that 15
Once you're
foot
in the
window.
the 15 feet, you need 4-foot buffer.
I know, I just wonder how many people, existing driveways right now are within 15 feet. So if you apply this to our general bylaws, that could trigger a whole bunch of things.
Well, no, because that's
But
all
not
grandfathered now.
retroactively.
No, I understand that, but,
All right, let's,
Table.
yeah, let's come back to it.
yeah,
but-
okay, all right. D, site plan. D1, it's a big one.
Do we ask people to show up with the deed for other things as well already?
Oh, look, let me check.
Like when we do a standard
Yeah, yeah.
site plan review, I don't think we're asking
Right.
for that.
So, so the 6th line down, the last word floor,
6 line.
does that need to be a capital F?
Oh, I see.
I don't think it does.
No, yeah, Lord, because it's a list.
It's just a
Right,
list.
Gary?
So, right.
Yes, it is, but
So 6 lines down, last word, the word floor is capitalized. I think it should be lowercase.
Let me look at,
So in the first couple sentences there, you show where your stuff is. Should you not need to show where existing adjacent similar things are on the plan? Do you want to know where their septic plan is and their well and their,
the neighbor, I mean?
yeah.
Yeah, the
Wouldn't you need a plot,
Your
like a
abutters.
certified plot plan?
Yeah, if you got to show it for yours, I think you would show the voting,
you need to.
Right.
Yeah.
but it doesn't show for that on here right now.
I don't write like that.
Yeah. Because we need to know where the septic is.
Right.
If there's a well.
This lot and adjacent
Yeah.
wells and septics.
Yeah.
And do we really need the floor plan for the entire house?
So you can see that it's separate entrances.
Yeah, but I mean, you can just do a cut of the portion that you're modifying with like some extending into the house. Architects are expensive.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't necessarily.
So I think the Board of Health would want it, I would think, right? But I'm thinking you want to see the whole house to make sure we know what
The total number of bedrooms.
the bedrooms, or what would qualify as a bedroom, you know, for the septic.
Yeah, it would.
I mean, that information would already be on file.
Not necessarily. Not all these houses, I don't think we have.
Okay.
Well, can it just be that you provide that if one does not exist in the town files currently?
But alternatively, I mean, like, we're asking them to comply with the Title V, so how does the Title V happen? Right, they have to certify the number of bedrooms. Go ahead, Peter.
So this first ADU is as of right, so I don't understand all this site plan review. Any structure that comes into the building department, we ask for a certified plot plan.
Right.
The building permit gets kicked to the Board of Health, and they review it, and so forth. I don't understand why the site plan review on an as of right build out, and I thought the statute frowned against this.
This is actually included in the statute as, or the regulations, one or the other, as something that we are allowed to do.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't realize.
yeah, you can do site plan review. Is that your question or no?
Yes.
Yeah, that's his question.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Peter's point was probably that we're not supposed to be more restrictive.
Right.
So if this wasn't written in there specifically like it is, then it would be more restrictive.
No, Melissa, actually, I didn't think site plan review would be required. I'm gonna build a house on a single lot. It
No.
doesn't come in front of the planning board.
Right, that's what I think that's what I was trying to say, is that normally with a regular design, that doesn't need to come to the planning board for a regular house.
Right.
But if we're saying this is for an ADU, and then we said for an ADU, now you need to have a site plan review, that would be more restrictive. And so I think that's what you were saying, was that it would be more restrictive than a regular home, because you don't have to, that's not required, that you come to the planning board. But in this case, it was actually called out that we could require it for the ADU.
Yeah, the law gave the town the ability to require, or they couldn't have site plan review.
But we did try to simplify it, because it's not a whole public meeting where the applicant has to pay to put it in the newspaper. It's just, right? We have that all in here now.
Yes.
And still in here that says that they have to reimburse us for any applicable fees for coordinating the meeting.
Right.
I don't see the deed on the checklist for,
Yeah, so we need to
Site plan.
remove that language.
so we could remove the deed.
And what's the, I guess, so I'm going to play devil's advocate, what's the intent of this? Why do we
Want to have site
want to
plan
have
review?
a site plan review and not just, hey, it's by right, so just let them do it?
Does they still have to submit that same information to Board of Health?
I don't know, I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Well, I get it.
We have gone back and forth on this.
You
Why did we-
didn't give me all the
So what-
requirements up front, why you?
Well, it's kind of, I
But
guess,
what are we going to do? I guess the question is like, what,
So unless we need a waiver for a curb cut.
I thought we said it was safer to start with this in place, and we can always change it later, and we wanted to keep a hand in what's going on to see if changes needed to be made. I thought that's something like that.
That is something, at one
Yep,
of the
that is,
meetings.
yep.
Yeah, we definitely said
Because
that.
I don't think we have a lot of, so we do a site plan review, but I don't think we have a lot of, I don't think we have a lot of,
Leeway?
no, control over any guy. I mean, we can't make changes, really, can we?
no.
So it's more just informational. Here's the site, we can't
Provide some
recommend or
context.
propose.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thought of having a site plan review, while I can appreciate, Peter, where he lives on Seekonk Street, there are other neighborhoods that are planned, single-family residential neighborhoods who, I think, didn't necessarily think that they would probably have a ADU right next to them
Right,
by right.
yeah.
And it's more of a cautious approach to have site plan review in place, so there's considerations to your neighbors and how you place them, and where they're located.
But can we really,
And it's allowed to be able to do that.
yeah.
And the
it's-
abutters get notified.
So the abutters get notified that it's happening, so that's important. That's
Yeah.
good. We start more restrictive, we can always take this out later if we feel it's not
You
needed.
can always loosen up. It's if you don't have it from the start,
But
then it kind of
But
gets.
during the site plan review process, we don't have a whole lot of say or dictation on much. We could maybe,
Oh,
We
this is
open the
informational.
communication between.
we can make a recommendation, but
Can, yes.
it doesn't, they don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Because we don't have to approve it, right?
Well, they have to do it.
Do we have to approve their site plan that they submit?
Decision shall be rendered.
So it's saying.
Yeah, you can't deny it.
Well, that's what I mean. We can't deny it. So if we propose a recommendation, strongly propose a recommendation, and they don't do it, we can't deny it.
Correct.
So that's my point. It's like,
Well, you're,
Could make,
Well, it depends what it is. It depends what it is. I mean, if they're trying to do something that violates an explicit regulation,
oh, right.
we're making
Deny it,
sure
not
that they
have to.
followed everything that's here.
Okay.
Isn't,
All right.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thinking about
No, I
this,
got it.
I think we said, I know we've gone back and forth on this too, but I think we said that it would be pretty quick, right? We could go through, and if there are any recommendations that we have,
Okay.
we could provide them. They don't have to take our suggestions or recommendations, but we could at least try to, push it in a direction that would be helpful to potentially an abutter. The abutters will be notified so they can be here as well.
All right.
Just while it's all new, so that people don't get really nervous.
Okay. And it's going to be a public hearing for this review?
Just a public meeting.
It says
Well, here
public,
it says public hearing. Last sentence says public hearing. That's why. Because I heard you say public meeting earlier, but the last sentence says public hearing shall consider screening, parking. So that just needs to
Now we need
change
to
to
change
public
that.
meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
in the middle of it, there's
No, I
no
support it.
public
I'm just
hearing.
trying to, again, I said I played
What's
devil's
that?
advocate here. I'm just
In
trying
the
to.
middle of it, there's a
Wait, let me,
comma.
hold on a second.
but just notice went out. Didn't you just send notice out?
I see that one
It says, so in the middle of planning, the planning board shall.
No, that's about the special permit. I wonder if this needs to be separated out a little bit.
I'd support that. Can we rework it and revisit it?
Yeah, because the bottom of that section is for special permit
Yeah.
cases. The top half is a by right where there's just a meeting.
Yeah, the whole
Oh,
paragraph
okay.
needs to get looked at. We're also calling out Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 11, and we're doing that in a weird way as well, as opposed to how
Instead
we
of
typically do
MGL,
it. Exactly.
right.
So, Rich, can we just rework that and
Yeah.
revisit it?
Yep.
So, Section 2, site plan should be reviewed.
Yep, all right, so D2,
Yeah, site plan.
I think that goes ahead with this whole section. This is dependent on what happens in one. But it's a standard requirement that we require for all site plan reviews anyway.
It's like a
Can we just make
space
sure that this
between 1
language
inch.
matches the language that we have elsewhere?
What's that?
We should just make sure that this language matches the language that we have elsewhere.
2, the surveyor, the requirements from the surveyor
Yeah.
for the plan.
God forbid we call out a different plan scale.
Oh, okay.
So that brings us to
Should be
use
40
table.
40 scale's pretty standard.
Yes.
All right, so the only changes are the first two lines?
On which, what do you mean?
The use
Oh,
table.
On the, okay, so we good with 2. 2, it's just verify, D2 is just verify that matches our current requirements. Then use table.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is something that I want to ask you and Tony, because I haven't talked to you guys since the latest updated regulations came out. Let me see. The definition. So we submitted feedback to, was it, HLC that we provided feedback to? Because the regulations didn't match the statute. So when it first came out, the statute said it was only going to be in residential districts. And then the definition of single-family residential dwelling said it's in any zoning district where single-family dwellings are permitted, which isn't just residential.
No, it's, right.
And then we were saying we don't want to have just ADUs behind every commercial building in town. So do we have an update on that from the state?
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, so they updated the definition of single-family residential zoning district. The current regulation says, any zoning district where single-family residential dwellings are permitted or an allowable use, including any zoning districts where single-family residential dwellings are allowed as of right or by special permit. So what they crossed out in that sentence was the reference to a variance, waiver, or other zoning relief or discretionary zoning approval, which, you know, if they didn't cross that out, that would just mean anywhere in town. But now it's a residential district where you can build a single-family house as of right or by special permit.
so we have to add the B3 and the B4. So it'll be by right in the B3 and the B4 district.
Yeah.
Because if it's special permit, it's still the protected ones are by right, correct? Tony?
I don't know, what do you mean by that? I don't understand.
So the bylaw allows a single-family dwelling by special permit in the B3, B4 district, those two districts?
Yep. So yes, the ADU would be by right in those districts.
Okay,
So
so we have to, yeah,
so accessory dwelling unit has to be a yes now for
in the B3 and B4, yeah.
What about the row beneath it?
And the row beneath it would still be special permit.
Those
planning
would be
board, because
special
that's two.
permit.
It's for a second. And that needs to change where, like Melissa or somebody was saying, right now it says two or more, but if we're
Right.
restricting it to just two,
Two.
then you say two,
Right.
or,
So remember
Second.
this part of it, because this might be a little confusing, but in the B3 and the B4, if you can get a special permit to build a single-family house, you know, the way the regulations read, it means that you can have an ADU as of right.
yeah.
But I think we have to add something that says that the single-family house has to be there.
Right, because we were saying before, the ADU had to be accessory to a dwelling, so that would be
Right.
worth
And
noting.
that's probably covers it, but I just so people don't get confused, I mean,
Yeah.
So, right.
I don't
in the
know.
use
It might be
table.
fine to leave it actually, but I just wanted to flag that as a potential confusion.
Right. So why, okay, yeah, no, I get it, and that would mean we'd have to make another line.
No.
In there, and I don't know how you do that.
I don't think it needs to be in the table. I think he means
Yeah.
referencing it back in the
Right.
original definition or documentation.
Which we do. So,
It does say it has to be existing.
right, so the line accessory dwelling unit has an asterisk at the end of it.
Yep.
Why? Why is there an asterisk there?
What is it reference?
Top of the table. And there's nothing,
Was it there, or no, the whole line is new?
there used to be something with that referenced.
Yeah, what's this asterisk for, Rich, huh?
So the asterisk on that at the end
Yeah.
is to see if you were paying attention. Well, we'll get rid of it.
I love it.
I was just wondering if
No,
there was
no,
a
no,
I would
no.
look for a footnote or something, I
No,
didn't see it. Like, it's like,
Unless you're Rich McCarthy.
and the next one, you would just need to say two.
Yeah, so we'll just say
Two
two.
accessory dwelling units.
Yeah, two.
Yes,
Yeah.
total.
And that would be special permit planning board in 3 and 4.
Yep.
You
Yes,
change that from a no to special SPPB.
yes.
Okay. And
Is
then
that,
that's,
is
So-
that where we could potentially put a note? I don't know if we need to, but if we wanted to move that asterisk to the next line, we could put a footnote that says must have a principal dwelling to have an accessory to, if we think we need to say that again.
I
I just feel like it's got to be accessory to something, right? So like,
You would think, yeah.
it
the
can't
word
just be,
accessory.
it can't be a principal.
But it could be, like, if I'm just thinking, if somebody says, oh, well, it's an accessory to a business, right? It has to be accessory to a dwelling, principal.
That could be defined in the, when we break D into two pieces about special permit. talk about existing
So
primary.
we talk about it as on the same lot as a principal dwelling in the definition. So there
Mm-hmm. It's in
needs to be
there.
a principal dwelling already on the
Right.
property for you to get an accessory.
And that's
Yeah.
what Tony.
It's definitely directive. You gotta have something before you get,
Right.
I mean,
So
Doesn't count if you're sleeping in your car on the lot.
did someone mention this before? Maybe you did. I think maybe Melissa did. Can you, say you just have a piece of land and you don't have a principal dwelling, can you just create an accessory dwelling?
No?
No.
Because that
it would-
becomes your principal.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So you can put an accessory on it.
An accessory to your accessory?
Yeah.
Right.
All right, so we probably don't need to mention that again.
It's
I
late.
don't think we need to mention it.
Okay.
No.
So in the B3, B4, if they don't have a dwelling on the commercial property already, they build one and then they can get an ADU?
Yes.
So
yeah.
they need all that space available to them with buffers and everything
Yep.
else?
Yep.
And they have to build a primary before they can build an accessory?
That's what,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting to. You can't just
Can they be concurrent?
Right to the accessory?
jump right to the
So
accessory.
like a good
Right.
example would be like the Hamlin property. Right, there's a house behind the cabinet company.
There is.
And
yeah.
then so if they wanted to put an accessory unit, they could. But if you're looking at the concrete company
Yeah.
right behind them, they couldn't because there's no principal dwellings on that property already.
Right.
So they'd have to lop off some, go through this permitting process, put the principal.
So that's a
dwelling
good
on
question,
And then-
Tony. I think the answer is probably no.
Well, there is a principal dwelling there, though.
There is a principal dwelling, but single-family homes are not allowed. It's a pre-existing non-conforming.
Oh,
there. But since it's pre-existing non-conforming, it's allowed by right.
Yeah, probably on the regulations. That, yeah, the
Right.
way they've. Yeah.
and then what about,
I was gonna say the B3 is,
If it meets all the other requirements, though.
Right. 10,000 extra square feet. Yeah.
as a practical matter, we probably won't have to worry about the B3.
Yep. Okay.
No, I don't think it'll
All
be
right,
a
any
huge
other
issue.
changes to the use table?
what about the neighborhood where, like Shire area, there are residential homes, are we, is it no longer allowed to be built there? It's one of the.
They're already existing,
They're already existing and they're
yeah, so they would
non-conforming.
have one by right as long as they meet the requirements.
Yes, but do we need to put that in here? Because that's one of the Cs, right?
Yeah, C1 off highway, C1. What's the, Tony, on,
It's a good call.
do we need to address that at all? With the way the new regs are written? About,
Because it says anywhere where a single-family home is
So
zoned.
which zone are, so at C1, you said C1B?
C1,
C1 off highway, which one?
that's
I don't know off
C1.
my head, but over by
C1.
Shire, there was a
I think that's
Going up towards the
C1B.
police station.
Going up to this police
What's
station.
Yeah.
It's on
Sharon Ave.
Sharon Ave. There are residential properties, but it is zoned commercial.
Yes,
Right.
Yeah,
but they're pre-existing
So
non-conforming.
those properties, as they stand, if they wanted an accessory dwelling unit, could have one. But if
But we don't
somebody
need to put it
bought the
here.
property and demolished it, they could not put up a single single resident home there. They
the
would have
zoning
to
is dated.
Exactly. They would have to be a commercial property on that lot. And so then they couldn't put both on there.
So we probably don't need to.
I don't think that's right. I think if there is a pre-existing non-conforming single-family house in a residential district that does not allow single-family houses as of right or by special permit, you do not need to allow a ADU there.
Oh, okay. So even though they already,
The only non-conforming structure section that's mentioned in the regulations says that if you have an existing structure or a principal dwelling which is non-conforming, that could be used for or converted into a ADU in conformance with the building code, then you do have to allow it.
got
But
it.
if there's some house in some district that is, grandfathered, you don't have to allow an ADU just because there's a house there. It still matters what the zoning district allows.
Even better, then we don't have to entertain it at all.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other use table? That has to do with dwelling units. I don't want to.
What's this
You don't wanna
blank
go up there?
column? This whole
Doesn't
blank
matter.
row?
Doesn't matter.
What is it?
What's this whole big blank
Top of
row?
page 6.
Right
For
here.
the use table, it just doesn't have, it's not, we need to make sure it's filled out. For the,
Or is it a header that is meant to be blank?
no, it's right here. So look at the bottom of 5. It's 2 parts.
Oh, it's just printing.
It's just not missing, it's just the way it's shown. Yeah.
Good catch.
They're all no, well, they're not all no's. They're all no's except for C4. Because it's 1,
Yeah, it's
2,
just
and
the,
3.
Oh, yep.
It's 1, 2, 3.
Just a page break
Yep.
with the, it's that proverbial portrait use table versus landscape,
Yeah, I know.
you know?
Okay. Nothing else on there. I mean, it's just those 2 lines for dwelling units.
Yep.
Okay.
To Eric's point, though, I wonder, maybe we can just cut all that out for the warrant.
What are we cutting now?
Everything
Don't
that's
show the
not
remainder of
applicable.
these
Yeah, the
pages.
remainder
We
of
don't need
that,
it. We don't need it in the warrant.
yeah,
Well, that's a good point. We're
Like,
just, it's just
just-
new. Just say, we're
just show what's the new,
right.
Right.
Because there's no other changes.
yeah.
I think that would be simpler to say we're adding these 2 lines to the table.
Yeah.
Maybe we might want to do that. I don't,
And leaving the remainder as is.
We'll, like, cut down 3 pages.
So you know that there's more of it, we're just not
Right.
yeah.
reprint it over and over.
Did you get that, Tony?
Not really, I'm not
So-
understanding.
So on the, so there's,
So instead of showing all the other uses in the use table, which we're not touching, just say we're adding this to that, those 2 columns, or rows, sorry.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
All right.
yeah, that would be a lot simpler, because otherwise, we and everyone else that reviews this is going to look at, okay, what else is changing?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah,
It's just we're adding these 2 rows. That's it.
right.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Chad, one question, Peter Diamond.
Yes, Peter.
On the restriction to only 2 units, if someone has 10 acres that's tucked back, they're still restricted to only 2 units if they have room for 3? Is that what?
So
Yes.
that's what we're, right, and that's what we're proposing, which is in, where is it? It's under, where did we say that?
10B.
4,
Section 4, B4.
B4.
A special permit is required for the use of land or structures in a single-family residential zoning district for more than 1 accessory dwelling unit. There should be an additional 10,000 square feet of land for any additional accessory dwelling unit beyond 1 and beyond what is required for the land area for the principal dwelling with a maximum of 2 accessory dwelling units.
Right. So we're proposing a max of 2, so that's why we're just saying 2 in the use table.
Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
yep. Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom or in the room?
Motion to continue the public hearing to discuss the proposed zoning bylaw amendments related to accessory dwelling units to our next meeting on
February 11th
February 11th at
at 7
7
PM.
at 7 p.m.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and seconded. We will do a roll call vote to continue. Gary Sullivan,
Aye.
Chris Montfort,
Aye.
Eric Timon,
Aye.
Melissa Mayo,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye, and
I would vote aye.
Gary Searle's opinion is an aye. I love it. So unanimous to continue the public hearing until our next planning board meeting. We will now move on to new business. So we have some meeting minutes. And I know I was not here in January. but I was here for, I believe, the rest. Let me just make sure.
April and December.
Let me just look at these. So I think we'll just do it one by one, Melissa, because there's different, so the Tuesday on the April, it looks like we were all here, so we can all vote. For the executive one? Is that the exec?
That's the regular, the April.
That's the
9th is
regular,
the
yep.
regular.
Okay.
Okay. Make a motion to approve the meeting notes from the planning board meeting on April 9th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, we'll do roll call vote. Gary Sullivan,
Aye.
Chris Montfort,
Aye.
Eric Diamond,
Aye.
Melissa Mayo,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. And Gary, you were not
I
here.
wouldn't be able
so
to
you
vote.
cannot,
And I can't vote anyway.
I know. All right, Melissa, the next one,
Is December 10th?
December 10th, and everybody's here, yep.
Okay. You want me to do December before May? Or does it matter? Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
All right. Make a motion to approve the planning board meeting notes from December 10th, 2024.
So moved.
Okay, do a roll call vote. Gary Sullivan,
Aye.
Chris Montfort,
Aye.
Eric Diamond,
Aye.
Melissa Mayo,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. And Gary, you
I would be voting aye.
Aye, right. All right.
All right.
Aye.
And what about January? Was anybody missing on the 7th?
I was absent and
Let's
Chris was
see.
absent.
Melissa, Gary, Eric,
That's it.
and that's it.
All right. So I will make a motion to approve the planning board meeting notes from January 7th, 2025.
Second.
Okay. So we'll do a roll call vote. Gary Sullivan,
Aye.
Eric Diamond,
Aye.
Melissa Mayo,
Aye.
and Gary
Aye.
Searles. You
I-
were here.
Yes, I was actually
Okay.
here.
All right, and last one, Betsy, is the May 14th.
Yep, the executive sessions.
We were all here for that, I believe.
You were all
Yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the planning board meeting notes from the executive session on May 14th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Gary Sullivan,
Aye.
Chris Montfort,
Aye.
Eric Diamond,
Aye.
Melissa Mayo,
Aye.
chair votes aye, and Gary's.
wasn't
Okay. We are done with meeting minutes, so discuss other zoning amendments for spring.
I had put in the, so, let me, so Peter had taken a look at the electric vehicle charging station proposed changes with Bob as well as Lou in the building department. He had sent me some proposed revisions today. I put them in your share drive. I think they make a lot of sense.
Okay.
Yeah, that was really
Proposed.
detailed. Thank you, Peter.
So it was excellent. So what I ask is just take a look and then we can discuss at the February meeting.
Okay.
The zoning Board of Appeals change is all set from the last time. You just need to vote it at your February meeting to refer to the select board.
Okay.
Floodplain was pretty straightforward in terms of changing the date.
Yep.
Discussions with town council, it's recommended not to proceed with the non-conforming structures proposed changes, concerned that it would have issues with passing muster with the state
Okay.
attorney general, so.
All right.
So we're gonna pull that one?
So we'll pull that one.
Okay.
Yep. The state lot is just matching up the time period for which the special permit is
To
applicable to
Yeah.
3 years.
to
which
3
is
years to match the state. Yep.
Same thing with the section 310.7.4B.
Okay.
And then back up to the second item, which is the inclusionary bylaw, is to, you had the presentation on the 21st, to potentially, I was gonna go to the select board meeting next week and say that the planning board might want to entertain putting something on for the warrant. At this point, it would just be a placeholder. And then we'd have to go through the hearing process.
Right. Yep.
Which, in addition to that, would also include changes to the B1 zoning, not just the inclusionary bylaw, based on some of the discussion from
Yep.
last,
Oh, from the feedback from the developers?
yeah,
Okay.
from the presentation, so.
All right.
That's kind of a recap.
Okay.
So I would anticipate the ones I mentioned, they would all be hearings in March.
Gotcha. Okay.
The last two, they may have to float a little bit in terms of timing, in terms of inclusionary and then B1 changes.
Right. You don't mean the last two on the list, but the last two things you mentioned.
The last two I mentioned, yes. Yep.
Okay. And, all right, anything else, Rich? Any other town planner updates?
Nope.
Okay. Meeting schedule,
I've got a conflict in May.
May?
We're at 5:13 right now. What's the town meeting date?
5:14?
5:14.
The next night.
So,
You have a
okay,
conflict on the 13th?
the 13th, yeah. I mean, if it's an issue and we need it and other people are able to join, I'm happy to bow out if needed.
Maybe we'll just kind of wait and see, right, as we get a little closer?
I'm fine with that. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And then, any other unanticipated new business?
No.
Okay. Can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Roll call, Gary?
I
Chris?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
I am already packing.
He's already done. All right, we are adjourned.
All right, good night, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. That was a good one.
I